Hey people, we have made it safely out of the park, out of Patagonia. I wanted to talk about a few things for you guys. First, types of people that are in Patagonia. Some interesting things for me. There was three main types of people I saw. So the first type of people we saw out there were what I call glam campers. They're there to sport all of their high-end gear, all their expensive nice stuff. These are the people that also usually were staying in the refugios, which is a refuge. When I think of a refuge, I think of a stick hut that probably has a leaking roof. That is not these refuges. These come with cold beer and food and in sometimes hot tubs and all sorts of ridiculous things like that. And you have these glam hikers that came and hiked Patagonia when they didn't really. So what that means is they have all this nice gear on, but they don't have backpacks, they don't have sleeping bags, they don't have tents, they don't have cooking gear. They just have very light day packs. Met a couple guys at base camp who sat down when I had a beer, and they were bragging about how all the times on the map are all wrong and how they hiked it so much faster. And I asked them, oh, which way did you hike the W? East to west, west to east. And they said, oh no, we didn't hike the W. I said, oh, what did you do? They were some of those glam campers. And they were bragging about how fast their times were. And I just looked at them like, of course your times were fast. You didn't have backpacks. You didn't have sleeping bags. These times are on the maps for people who are hiking and camping, not people that are doing day trips up from, luxurious lodges. And they felt kind of bad about that, but I think they knew it ahead of time too, though. Next, you get your real sort of camper people. It's not their first rodeo. They've been camping a bunch of times. Those people, things were a little bit different for them in Patagonia. Hordes of people in Patagonia, lots and lots of people. We're in the shoulder season too, but if you're a standard camper, you're usually used to not seeing lots of people out there. But lots and lots of people go through Patagonia, as it is one of the better places to camp in the world, and very well known for that. You also have Wi-Fi in a lot of spots out there, and things like hot tubs and beers. And for normal, everyday, I've been camping a bunch of times places, those sorts of people, they found those things kind of different. I would put myself probably in that category. And then third group of people were people who just had no idea what they were doing, no idea at all. And they were some of the funniest on the trail. A couple people from America that they didn't bring food with them because they thought they could just buy food everywhere, which, yes, you can, but they had a long 8-10 hour hike after not eating breakfast. And if you think it's an okay thing to get up in the morning and not have breakfast, not eat all day until 6 o'clock at night, 5 o'clock at night at best, when you're burning 4 times the amount of calories you normally would be, you need to go back to the planning board on those things. We saw a person who brought a camping stove, but like a car camping stove, one of those big stoves like this that takes a big canister on the side, and you can fit like a whole pot on. Restaurants and stuff will use them for mobile stoves, not your tiny little stove that screws on to the gas things. Just some general unprepared people like that. People who had inappropriate backpacks, inappropriate shoes. Those, I've never been camping before, but this sounds like a good idea, and didn't put any research into it. Some of the highlights in Patagonia for me, I really like all of the itty bitty tiny trees. They were fascinating for me just because of the slow growing season you have here, and rough conditions for the trees. They take a very long time to grow, and walking through forests of trees that are just a little bit taller than you was amusing to me. I just saw myself as like a huge giant walking through a normal sized forest, or walking through a forest of bonsai trees. It was nice. Another highlight for me was the Patagucci store. I looked everywhere here in Patagonia for Patagonia stuff. You would think there would be a Patagonia store in Portland, which is the like hub to get into Torres del Paine, which is where people, when they say they hike Patagonia, that's where they're going. No Patagonia store here, but right before you head up the trail, there is a small Patagonia store, relatively useless for me because you don't know about it till you get there, and if you don't have all the stuff that you need by the time you're there, you should have bought it in Puerto Natales, which is probably what everybody does. But hey, at least they had one. French Valley, very neat. Love the French Valley. I loved it as much as the Towers, which is the kind of like shining jewel for Patagonia, but the French Valley was very neat. Staying in Camp Italiano, which is at the base of the French Valley, you hear avalanches all night long. Rocks rolling, snow avalanches, and then what you do is you leave Italiano and hike up the valley to get even closer to those avalanches. You get a very, very good view of them. Really neat, craggy rock mountains, just really jaggedy shaped mountains that look like, to me at least, the watchtowers of Amansun. It's a Lord of the Rings reference. That is, they also call it Weathertop in the movies. Some of the downsides for Patagonia, walking through hours of burnt trees. Tragedy that happened a very long time ago, but like I said, slow growing season, so it's taken a very long time for Patagonia to get back from that. Some people thought it was a good idea, for whatever reason, to burn their toilet paper. I don't know why you wouldn't just bury it like everybody else, but they ended up starting a couple massive forest fires doing it, so fire is a very, very big thing here. It is very forbidden. You can get months in jail for very minor offenses with fire, like smoking in places where you're not supposed to, and they'll actually kick you out of the country. To some of the maximum fines are like 20 years in prison, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. They take their fire very, very seriously down here, which was, for a standard camper, an odd thing for me, because I'm used to going out camping, not seeing people, hanging around a bonfire, maybe playing a guitar, sitting around talking, eating s'mores. No bonfires. Little downside for me, but is completely understandable with the devastation that it causes here and how long it takes to recoup from it. One of the downsides was, for us at least, we had a very hard, rough day where we hiked a long ways. We hiked from up by the towers to Camp Italiano, and it was a long hike. So we are all of about 5 minutes up the French Valley right now. This is day 4, just closed down camp, and God, I'm tired. Yesterday was not quite such a la-di-da-di-da day. You hike and you hike and you hike, and you go down this huge massive hill, and then all these other rolling hills, and about the time when you want to cry, you cross over this hill, and you see this wonderful magical land where they have a refuge out there, and it is a refuge like you've never seen before. When you cross this hill, you see people outdoors sitting in front of their cabins in hot tubs, drinking beer. It is one of the most saddest, depressing things to see when you're that far and you're tired and you really want that hot tub, but you did not book at that place and you need to keep hiking for a few more hours. The trail literally brings you by their bar. Like, you walk on the patio to their bar, and that's where the trail goes. You walk in between people that are sitting there laughing, drinking, and having a cold beer, while you have still a few hours to hike yet to get to your campsite. It was humorous, but man, that was rough to walk past that. Surprises for me in Patagonia, they always say prepare for all kinds of weather in Patagonia, because the weather here is very unpredictable. It can go from sunny to snowing or raining, like that, and you have to be prepared for it. The one thing that we did not prepare for was hot and sunny, beautiful with blue skies. We were prepared for everything except for that. Times I wished I had a swimming suit so I could go swim in one of the glacier-fed lakes because it was that warm out. I would have actually done it, or at least had a towel. I would have gone and skinny dipped in that lake if I at least had a towel, but I didn't because the thought of swimming or needing a towel did not cross my mind. Did not cross my mind at once. At least I brought some sunscreen, though. Found that as some tips. I kind of went, sunscreen, I'm not going to need that. But yeah, ended up using that every day. The infrastructure that is in the park is massive. At multiple places there, you can buy food, and I mean like meals. You can get lattes. You can. We had a 3-course plated meal for us. Very interesting. Going through the park, you can have horses carry your bag for you if you don't want to carry a bag. They have hot tubs and they have beer and all sorts of things. But with all this infrastructure, the one thing they don't have is if you break your leg, they say, I'm sorry, that's not our thing. There is no rescue in the park. You break your leg, you have to put your big boy boots on and make yourself a splint and walk yourself out. That's assuming you don't have travel insurance, and your travel insurance doesn't cover extreme sports, which, yes, hiking is considered a extreme sport by those insurance people who clearly have never really been hiking before. Kind of as a conclusion, I should note I'm going to do a 4-minute video on some of the like logistics, the nitty gritty stuff that if you are coming down here to actually hike, you need to watch and you need to find some of these things out. Lots of things changed this year. There's all sorts of new rules, but once again, I'm going to go through all of that in a very short, condensed video on, hey, this is how you hike it. This is what you do. This is what you don't do. Overall, I loved Patagonia. It was a great hike. Very, very fun, difficult in parts, but it was well worth it, and you should come down and see it.